I'm Ryan, the Gentleman Outlaw. I don't know if you follow me on TikTok or on YouTube. This is my father, Dave. We did a video
Before the snow was flying.
before the snow was flying. It was almost a year ago now.
No. It was late fall, so it would have been
6 months.
5 months, 5, 6. Mm-hmm.
It's too long ago.
Yeah.
Because we said we're going to come out with more of these every couple weeks, and life happened.
Yeah.
And we got called out. One of the comments in our video was, if you have any questions, please let us know and we'll talk about it. Well, one guy said, well, this was months ago and you haven't made another one.
But he didn't ask a question.
No questions.
Right.
So we're just going to talk. Last time we tried to make it a little bit more formal about who we are.
That's on the website. GentlemanOutlaw.com.
GentlemanOutlaw.com. It is on the website. Like I said, we also have YouTube. We're just starting up. I haven't started any conversations yet. I don't know if you've ever smoked a pipe, but sometimes they stay lit, sometimes they don't. So this is on no topic whatsoever, but we sit down a lot, and we have conversations, and we usually think they're pretty good. Maybe it's because, another video if you want, this is homemade mead, which is just a honey wine. That could be why we like our own conversations.
Mm-hmm. This is good.
Yeah. My first time making it. If you guys are interested, leave a comment. I'll make a video on how I screwed up, or how I make it good. I've got some raspberry nectarine going right now.
I feel like you off camera here in this pile. You feel like you're in the hills of Virginia and the 1930s or something.
Yeah. I asked on Facebook if somebody had some wine bottles, and one lady delivered.
Yeah.
I got like 3 or 4 cases.
But you got these colorful liquids that are bubbling away over here. That
I got 4 or 5 carboys sitting over there, bubbling away, just making deliciousness. Hi everybody. We still got 3 hanging in there. It's nice to see you. Again, if you have anything you want to talk about, let us know. We don't usually. We always get religious and political in our conversations, but we never intend to. But
sure we do.
Religion and politics kind of drive everything. They are one and the same, which is really something people don't like. Churches don't want to be in religion
Well, that might be true.
Some churches also don't want to be in religion.
Yeah.
They just want money. We're not against. I was gonna say we're not against church. We're okay with church. We're very pro-church.
Skeptical of the institutionalization.
Correct. We haven't found one
of the money making process.
We're all about making money, though. Yeah. The Church of the Bible is not
what we see down the street.
Not what we see on every single street corner.
I would say, in to argue that there's plenty of pastors and other people who are legitimately trying to they're recognizing the problem, but still don't know what to do to fix it. And I'm not sure we've got all the answers.
I'm not sure if I have any. But we have mead.
Again, recognizing the problem is the first step to fixing anything. And so I think there's some people who legitimately are trying to do different things, unique things. In fact, I would say in the last 2 decades, a lot of people have tried to do unique things.
They're waking up to the fact that it's not working.
The problem is it's taking them down some really quirky roads too. In some cases, not always, but there's some that have gone off the deep end.
Yep.
And some that are legitimately trying.
Yep. And we're not shaming anybody.
No, we regularly participate in one of those institutions ourselves, but kicking and screaming maybe.
Some of them. Yeah. Pipes are really good for when you don't know what to say, but you want to look like you're thinking hard. We can't guarantee we'll say a lot of importance, but we will say a lot. We were talking about something yesterday, and we're like, oh, we should have put that on the camera.
Yeah, and I actually intended to do a little more research so I could have names and dates and places to to back up my argument or whatever. That's not the right word, but we were talking about that. I've been reading this book on the Torah, the first 5 books of the Old Testament: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. And the Torah, those 5 books, are incredibly important to the Jewish people. And so this book that I'm reading is quite thick, and I can't tell you the author. That's what I mean. I didn't look up the facts.
Dog ate his homework.
Yeah, I didn't do my homework. But the author in one of the places was talking about, well, his whole book is actually questions and answers about the traditions of the Torah, when it's read, where it's read, who can read it, who can't, what circumstances, what holidays get, what parts get. It's just a whole lot of details on the Torah, which is fascinating because it's Jewish culture, it's Jewish tradition, but so much of that carries into our Christian religion, or maybe in some cases should, in some cases shouldn't, but there's value in why they did what they did.
Mm-hmm.
And it's worth at least considering. But one of the things that stuck out to me, and this is what the topic was that the Torah is not opened. The scroll is not opened unless you have what they call a quorum, which is, in their case, 10 people. And it started out with being one representative of each of 10 of the 12 tribes. It later became just 10 people. But without a quorum, the scrolls are not to be opened. Because if I open up the scroll alone and begin reading in Exodus, or you will do it alone, or even the two of us do it alone, we can start going down some quirky paths and start misinterpreting and twisting God's words. But you get 10 people together, or 20 people, or 40 people together, and you open those scrolls and start digging through it, then you're held accountable by each other's words, and you can banter thoughts back and forth. And if you start going down this strange path, somebody's going to say, wait, over in Isaiah it says this. Mm-hmm. So your thinking isn't right. And I can't do that on my own. I might not remember what Isaiah said or somebody else.
There's, when I watch, this is off the religious topic, but when I watch Stephen Crowder, he talks about when he watches the news, one thing he likes to do to stay sharp is real time yell at them. Where they're wrong, why they're wrong, what the details are, and that's just how he tries to stay sharp for.
It's his way of doing it.
Yep, in public. And when you're on the news, you're the one person standing by yourself, or you're the pastor at the pulpit. You're the pastor at his office preparing to be at the pulpit.
All by yourself.
You don't have anybody correcting. Like, you're wrong there. Because just helping my son with a math problem, and I had one detail wrong, and it ruined the whole problem.
Math is that way.
Math is that way. And religious things, the Bible is that way. You get off on something, and you can end up down a really, really crazy path because you read a word and then you didn't realize that, somebody in your congregation actually knows back in the Hebrew tradition it means something different. And so it's like C.S. Lewis wrote the book The Four Loves. Because the Bible talks about love, and so you have these religions that are all about love, and Jesus loves you, and it's so great, and love, but there's 4 different types of love, and it's used,
it gets twisted
differently throughout the Bible, and it's not this warm fuzzy that we always talk about all the time. Sometimes it is. So you can't just go through the Bible and read the word love and assume you know what it means until you
have some context, some background. Yep, exactly.
And you don't have to know all of that. That's the greatest thing.
You can't know all of that.
You can't know all of that. We weren't created to do this alone. Any of this.
So, and you mentioned, can you imagine a world, a church, and I have to twist what you imagine a church is, but if you had this institutional church, and you've got this pastor, and he's preparing to do his Sunday sermon, but he's not allowed to open his Bible. Unless there's, say, 10 other, I'll say pastors, but I don't know that
something
knowledgeable, wise people to sit down with him and open up the scriptures and begin to put together a sermon. Now, he might be the one who stands up at the pulpit because he's really good at oratory. He's really good at speaking to the public. He's good at communicating. But 10 people together put this together.
Yes.
How much more
Powerful.
accuracy and how much more powerful, how much more context and inserted thoughts there would be in that conversation, in that sermon. I think there's power in that. And I think there again, it's just one of those little pieces that's fallen off through the years that we miss, and it doesn't even fit in our culture. But maybe it should.
Well, you were talking even if you took religion out of that. If we had our governments do that.
Well, actually, it's not out of that. Every year they would read the Torah.
Exactly.
And the book of Leviticus is primarily a book detailing what the Levites were required to do. And they were the national leaders of their country. They were the priesthood between God and man, but they also were the people, the government. They were the government of the country. They collected the taxes. They collected the food. They distributed the needs. They built the roads. They took care of the health. I mean, they did all the things that a government does. And it's completely Levitical responsibilities. When you think Levites, think government. Now, once a year, they would read Leviticus to all of the people. And the people would fully understand the responsibilities and the duties of the Levites.
Yep.
Can you imagine if we did that to Congress? Once a year, all the people of the United States would listen to the limitations and the controls that are put on Congress.
Yeah, so we just had, what was the situation about? It was the mortgage moratorium back during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And
yep. You could skip your monthly payments or something.
Yeah, you could skip your payments on your mortgage and basically screw out your landlord or your bank because people were hurting. And for some people that was really important. And some people, they took their mortgage payment, just spent it on crap that they didn't need, which is where you run into a problem. Do you help the people who need it, or do you hold people accountable for when you sign that contract? You're signing that no matter what, I'm going to pay this. And unfortunately, a pandemic is part of that no matter what. But former Vice President Joe Biden stood up in front of everybody and said...
Former Vice President?
Yeah, that's who he is.
Yeah, I guess he is. I like that.
He stood up in front of everybody. It's a Steven Crowder thing. I'm not stealing that. I'm giving credit to Crowder. I love Steven Crowder. He's hilarious. But he stood up in front of everybody and said, we're going to extend the moratorium, and we know it's not constitutional, and it'll get shot down in the Supreme Court, but we're going to give people a few more months with this. Breaking constitutional law right there. And if you
when a president is sworn into office, he swears on the Bible that he will uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States. Those words alone to say, well, we know it's not constitutional, but...
Yeah.
That's treason.
It is.
That's I don't even know what the word is.
Yeah. Did you not know about that little story?
No.
Yeah.
I know they do those things all the time, but it's another thing to say it out loud.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he says the quiet part out loud a lot. Him and Kamala. Or Kamala, as he would say.
Yep.
He forgot her name. But quiet.
Can you smell this?
I can. I like it.
Are you smoking the same thing I am?
No, I got the. Actually, I can't smell yours. I can smell mine. It's weird. I usually can't smell mine.
Mm-hmm.
I could smell yours. That's why I went and got mine. But no, this is that stuff that we got at the gun show, like the very first tobacco we got.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that. It was real black.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what it was.
I think it was
very,
black.
very black. Yeah.
Yeah. That guy somehow had connection to Al Capone or something. Yeah, sure. But it's good. It's actually getting better with age.
Yeah, well, a lot of times they do.
Mm-hmm. You had mentioned Tikva.
Uh-huh.
And you said it was
I didn't do my homework on that.
You didn't do your homework on that either. can you give a more extensive teaser? Because you said there was a huge story, and all I remember is tikva was the Hebrew word for hope.
Yeah.
And then you said there was a huge story. I didn't know about a story.
Yeah, well, again, so we need to back up a little bit for anybody who might be watching this video, because tikva it's the name of my company. Gentleman Outlaw is what we're doing together here, but tikva is a marketing company, and
they actually tend to market for Gentleman Outlaw.
Right, go figure.
So if you haven't heard about me,
right, not doing my job. So, but tikva was founded back in 2010 or something like that, and at that point we were doing websites and marketing, all kinds of things. But I use that word because of some of the circumstances we've gone through in the previous number of years. But tikva is a Hebrew word, an ancient Hebrew word, and it like a lot of Hebrew words, you can't just translate it. And I think we run into trouble with that a lot in scriptural stuff and things like that. We try to take a Hebrew word and translate it to an English word, and everybody's happy.
Yep, like love.
And it doesn't work that way. Hebrew is a language that uses a lot of allusion, a lot of images, a lot of metaphor and things like that. And so it's sometimes tough to wrap your head around a word. And tikva is one of those. If you just said tikva means trust or tikva means hope, you completely missed it.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably the best words to use, but you can't summarize it in one word. So in the Hebrew, the tikva idea of what that would mean. If you look at Job, I don't know if the viewers here know the story of Job, but if you do, it would help. But Job said at one point, even though God slays me, yet will I serve him. I'm going to trust God no matter what, even if he kills me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that digging in your heels. There's nothing left in this whole world for me, but I'm going to put my hope, my tikva, in God and God alone. It also gives the image of a red cord, and that has to do with but I think I was just about there. I don't remember where I left off, but that's the idea of what the word means.
Yeah, it's hard to turn it into a meaning, but yeah.
English, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess that was the end of that in a way. I don't.
Yep. Well, I guess that was a good way to wrap up that end. But hi, Connor. Hi. For those of you who have never been here, which would be probably all but about 2 of you, if you're even watching. We're in our living room, and so we have a small audience of family members over here. And even the little ones are being good and quiet, but it looks like the littlest one is about to jump on her bike and start riding in the living room. So it might not be quiet for long.
Well, the first video we did outdoors. And we had
chickens
and dog, and not so much interruptions, I don't think, other than maybe a jet that went over.
There was an airplane.
Yeah, but we had chickens in the background running around, and It won't be long. Maybe we can do that again.
Yeah.
I think that'd be fun.
For those of you watching, let us know if you like this decor.
It's a real backdrop.
It is.
It's not a green screen.
We hope it doesn't drop. That would hurt. Yeah, there's actual... I can't really open it from here, but...
Probably don't want to.
Yeah, there's stuff in there. It's real. It's solid. It's American, probably not American made. American owned, which is important. I was telling you about George H.W. Bush, and since I got my certificate, I guess I'll talk like I know what I'm talking about, even though I probably still don't.
You got a degree in history now.
Yeah, which really makes me wonder what degrees mean, because I don't know anything more than I know a little bit more.
Degrees don't mean much at all.
They don't mean a damn thing. You can fold them up and throw them like everybody else. But, so, you had mentioned earlier, I don't remember if it was on here or before the video, the Carter era. With, it was, okay, you're talking about Grandpa buying
cars.
Yep, cars, because of gas prices.
Yeah. Well, in the Carter era, we had a government-created gas shortage. There was no gas shortage. It was a way to get money and control. Go figure.
Well, it was a problem with Russia. Go figure.
Government has always done control. They'll create a crisis so that they can solve the crisis. Every government does it, not just ours, but
That's where I'm going with my part.
but it has been a problem. So yeah, in the Carter era, it was a gas shortage. There wasn't enough oil to supply the world anymore, and so we were going to have to find a way to get more energy efficient, so we're using less fuel. And one of the ways was, we started importing little tiny Japanese cars and stuff, which in those days were to buy a Volvo or to buy a Honda or something like that. They were junk cars. They're not anymore. They're actually very, very good. But in those days, they were little tiny junk vehicles. But you could buy them, and you could buy them new rather inexpensively. So people were unloading their big cars, their big American Buicks and Pontiacs and Chryslers and things that they'd been enjoying for years. They're getting 15, 18 miles to the gallon. And hey, I can get this little, Honda or Hyundai or whatever it was, Opel, and I can drive that and get 25 miles to the gallon, 28 miles. They still didn't get in the 30s yet in those days. But so yeah, my dad, I remember him watching that market, and people would run out, and people that he worked with and stuff, and they'd go spend their $3,000, $4,000 for a brand new, Mitsubishi, and so that they could get their 28 miles to the gallon. And he just waited for the market, and he was able to buy these big Chryslers, let's say, big Chrysler New York or big Chrysler Imperial, that get him, 16, 18 miles to the gallon, but he could buy the thing for $300.
Yeah.
A nice car in those days.
Yep.
And it's
Takes
still
a
in
long
really, really
time.
good condition. You can buy a lot of gas for that difference.
Yep.
And since he had 6 kids, the big car was kind of handy. And you could put 3-4 bodies, groceries in the trunk.
Yep.
And
Put
you
about 4 kids in the back window.
You could in those days. Yeah, I remember riding them up in the back window. Yeah, I did.
Yep.
Sleeping on the floor in the back end, going down to Florida and stuff like that. So, yeah, sometimes you really got to be careful about throwing lots and lots of money away to save a couple of bucks.
Yeah.
And sometimes it just doesn't add up. And we've all done it. But right now, that's what started the conversation. Right now, because suddenly gas is $4 a gallon, it probably end up at $5 before you know it. A lot of people are running out and trading in their pickup trucks and trading in their Suburbans and things like that for electric cars or hybrid cars or super high efficiency cars. And I get it. I've got a hybrid myself.
Uh-huh.
But you just watch a little while. It's going to be a really good time to buy a nice Chevy Silverado in about a month, because you'll be able to get it real cheap.
Yep.
And you're going to get a lot of life out of it. So.
Good to know. Are you old enough to remember the Carter era? Or
Yeah, although I've never really been into big politics much. Obviously, he's political and I'm not.
I
But
don't like being political, but it's fun.
yeah, you follow all the news though.
I try.
The only news I get is what you come home with, because I'll look at headlines. I don't even watch a YouTube video. I'll bring up Tucker or something, and I'll watch 2-3 minutes of it. But, that's enough.
Bored. got through his intro. Go
Yeah.
now. Watch the news. Have you seen the meme floating around Facebook where it says gas prices are so high I can't afford cable anymore, and it's this guy sitting in the lawn chair in front of the gas pump watching the news.
Yeah, on the gas pump. Yep.
But
Yep.
but what was I gonna say? Yeah. So the Carter era was very similar to now. Inflation was a little bit higher.
It was higher?
Mm-hmm. Inflation was, I think it was either 13 or 14%. That included the housing cost increase.
Okay.
Nowadays, we do not include the housing increase, which is amazing how you can just spin numbers and nobody cares or notices. But you can say, oh, it's not as bad as it was before. It's not. But if you were to add the housing crisis that we're currently in, because I don't know, it's not a crisis if you're selling a house, but if you want to buy a house right now, it's kind of a crisis. It would put us at about 11 to 12%, so real close to that Carter era.
Yeah.
And then that's what caused the huge red wave where I think Reagan got like 44 states or something like that. The big movement, and they swung want to say it was like 20 seats in the House and like 6 in the Senate. It was
Yeah.
devastating
Yeah.
for the Democrats. And so we're right there again. It's very, very, very close.
Other than controlled polling, that'll happen again this November. But
Yeah. Free and fair and greatest election there ever was. But so who's the first president you remember as a kid? Would it be Reagan or would it be HW?
well, actually, Johnson was president when I was born, but I wouldn't remember him.
Okay.
I remember Reagan. And that's about the time I was graduating high school. Was the Reagan years.
Okay, so that would be like my Obama.
So I knew about the other ones, Carter, Nixon, things like that. You do social studies class in high school, and you fill out the papers, but I didn't care.
Yeah.
It wasn't, when you're in high school, it doesn't affect your life.
Well, and also back when you were a kid, politics wasn't nearly as important.
No, people didn't follow it the same way. That's true. Yep.
Some of that was because television has changed and social media has changed. And right now, you get news, and 5 minutes later, it's changed. When you were younger, you got the news.
But remember, when I was a kid, when they did Walter Cronkite did the news, he read the news.
No spin.
He didn't give his opinion. He didn't talk about it. He didn't explain it. He just said, this happened today, and these people invaded here, or the stock market's doing this, or there's a fire burning, whatever.
Read between your own lines.
And you figure out whether you like it or not. He didn't give any opinion. And I say he, I mean, that was just all of the newscasters. It was news.
Yeah.
Period. It's the facts. Facts.
We don't have those anymore.
We believe most of it was true. I don't think that exists anymore. I don't think anybody does news that I know of. Everybody does opinion-based.
Yeah. Which is good.
It's entertainment.
Well, opinion-based news is good news as long as they're open about the fact that they have a spin. We believe this. I'm pretty sure you can just tell I've got an American flag hat on and guns in the back, and so you can pretty much assume we're right-leaning and pro-American. There's no illusions that we're hard lefties. But I try to be fair.
Well, unless I'm offended.
Well, that's true. If we're offended, all of a sudden we self-identify as left, which is allowed. But that circle back. Why is it, if you see an American flag, you already know that they are right-wing and pro-American? And if they don't have a flag or they have something against the flag, you already know that they're left-wing.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So back in the day, we're talking back pre-Carter, I would say, and it was whether or not you wanted higher taxes for your country, or you wanted lower taxes for your country, whether you wanted more government to help the country, or you wanted less government to help the country. And now it's, we want to preserve what we have, or we want to get rid of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it really has come to that.
And it's a huge problem. And I know a lot of people are probably going to see this and say, no, I'm not, that's not me, I'm left. But we're talking extreme lefts and I guess moderate rights. There's some extreme rights that are way too far. We're not extreme right.
Oh, there's people on both sides that are way too far.
Some
of them are in Congress.
Yeah, a lot of them. Pretty much all of them. But, and I hate to say we need middle ground, because even the right has gone left. And actually, I talked to a friend at work around the election that said the left had gone way too far right. So I don't know who's making these decisions. And I'd like to hear somebody's argument on why.
Back to, in my day, if you will, if you watched Congress, and not that I watched it a lot, but you still had your Democrats and you had Republicans on both sides, and a bill would come up, and there would be a vote on the bill, and let's say you might get, 60% of the Republicans voting in favor of that, and you might get 30% of the Democrats voting for it. I mean, there was always this middle ground
It's bipartisan.
that was bipartisan. That's the word we use nowadays. That it kind of bounced between. Some of them were more in favor on the Democrat side, but some of the Republicans would vote for it, and some were more in favor on the Republican side, but some of the Democrats would vote for it. You don't see that much anymore.
No.
The only way anything gets done in Congress is whoever has the majority. Right now, we've got a Democratic majority. They're getting all their stuff through.
Yeah.
And it's their goal to get as much done as they can before November when they know they're going to lose it.
Yep.
And then the Republicans are going to take control, and they're going to get as much done as they can while they're in office. And the Democrats won't go for any of it. There's going to be this wall between them.
Yep. And the problem is it's not trying to advance
the nation.
It's
Right.
trying to advance themselves,
The party.
and their friends.
Yep.
And that's for
On
both
both sides.
sides. I feel the same way about government as I do about church.
Yeah.
There's a right way to do it, and we're so far off.
Yeah.
And obviously, we can't make it perfect.
That seems like we've made it worse.
Yeah.
Government, it's just going.
Just put it back the
It
way you
just keeps
found
getting.
it.
Yeah, put it back the way you found it. Yeah. Don't build it back better. Put it back the way you found it.
Exactly.
I think that's good. And maybe put it back the way you found it. Not that it's always been bad. I mean, Abe Lincoln dealt with this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nothing new.
I mean, we had these same issues all the way back with Thomas Jefferson. The pendulum always swings back and forth. This isn't like the first time that the country has been in peril, and we're always afraid we're going to lose it, because a year and a half ago, the left said it was in peril and we were going to lose our country. And before that, with Obama, the right said we were in peril, we're going to lose our country. And before that, Bush made it in peril and we were going to lose it. So, I mean, the other side, but I don't know if it's getting worse, or with the social media, we just get a microphone.
Right.
Stupid people can be heard now.
Yep.
Stupid people need to shut up, and that might include me. But I don't know because I watch wall builders a lot, listen to them all the time, and they said, this isn't the worst we've been. Not saying that we should take this lightly. I mean, what's going on could destroy the country as we know it. It could create a new country, but that's not what we want. We have the longest standing constitution ever.
That's hard to comprehend.
Period. What is it, 240 some years? Do you know what the average length of a constitution for a country is before a rebellion? 17 years.
Wow.
Which means in my lifetime...
That's an average.
That's an average. Which means in my lifetime, if this was an average country, I would have seen at least one rebellion by now.
Yeah.
More than likely two. So we have a good thing going.
Yeah. We've gone through rebellions, though, without losing our constitutional republic.
Right.
And that's the key, I suppose. But it's been threatened, and it's nearly fallen. Like I said, in the Lincoln days, it nearly was destroyed.
Yeah, but that was an argument over what our Constitution said and how we should follow it. Nowadays, they want to rewrite it.
Yeah, they want to
think
destroy
it's
it.
Outdated. They need to get rid of it and do something new. That's a whole different problem. That's no different than Russia marching in because they want to implement their rules on us. That is grounds for war, regardless of what you like. I'm not saying start a civil war. I'm saying back the hell up, because you'll lose. Everybody will lose.
Yep.
It's, if you don't like what you have, go somewhere else, or be ready to fight for it. The whole defund the police. Did you hear in Biden's State of the Union where he said it's not defund the police, we need to fund the police? And everybody lost their minds because, I mean, they all cheered for him.
Right, but that's not what they've been saying.
They've been saying defund the police, and they realize this is actually really bad for the nation.
This isn't going to work very well.
People tend to die, which isn't, and it's the wrong people dying. They want those people to live and vote.
Although what they would like is a government-controlled police.
Correct.
And now you've got a military police state, which could be worse. I would defund that too.
And that's what they're trying to argue, is that's what it is. And it's racist. But, yeah.
And that's what a lot of countries have got, is a military-controlled police state. So that the members of your police department are doing the bidding of whatever
Whoever's in
party
power.
is in control at the moment.
Well, that's one thing to think about, regardless of what side you're on. When you make these drastic changes to give government power, and you still have a democratic system, we're not a democracy. We're a constitutional republic that uses a democratic system for elections.
Mm-hmm.
Period. We're not a democracy.
Yes.
But there's a huge difference. But as long as you keep the democracy alive, and you give your government a ton of power, that pendulum will swing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're on the far right and you want to give power to the government to help aid your cause, when it swings back to the left, and
it will.
they have that same power.
Mm-hmm.
If you give the power to the people, a government of the people, for the people, by the people, is that the right order?
Mm-hmm.
Then nobody has power. Everybody has power. But you're not under the rule of
Anybody.
a king.
Right. Yeah. Or the whims of
Some senile old
governors that want to make mandates, for instance, at a whim.
Yeah.
Because you've got a constitution that prohibits that. Somebody was just talking to me just recently, and I think this is so important to remember. We need to say this all the time to our kids, to people online, to everybody, is keep in mind that our Bill of Rights is not rights that the government has outlined for us in the Constitution, that the government gives us in any way at all. The Bill of Rights is rights that are given to us by God, and it limits the government on how they can interact with our rights. That it has nothing to do with the government giving us rights.
If you break it down, the Bill of Rights is a threat.
It is. Mm-hmm.
These are ours, given to us by our Creator, whoever your Creator is. They did not limit that. These are your God-given rights, and if you try to take them from us, we're going to use the second one.
Yeah.
That's what that's about.
Yep. That's exactly it. And we're free to talk about it. That's the first one.
That's the first one.
And the second one gives us the right to do something about it.
And that's another thing for all these people out there that are saying we need to start a revolution. I heard John Lovell say, everybody who calls for war is somebody who's never been in it,
mm-hmm.
Which is really important to know. That's why the Second Amendment is second. Because if we can talk about it,
mm-hmm.
that's better. But when you can no longer talk about it, the only option is to fight for it.
Yep. Yep.
And I'm a huge advocate of talking about it.
Yep.
And you find a lot of people never talk, never have conversations. That's literally how we started
mm-hmm.
the videos. Is people don't have conversations, and I wish somebody would comment in here anything. That's why I was hoping somebody was actually trying to chime in for a conversation. I actually haven't complaint about what you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
I like complaints.
Maybe in the future we got to come up with either physically having a person here, because
Yep.
to a totally different side of the fence, and
Yep.
that's okay, or a Zoom meeting kind of thing where you can
Yep.
record it, because I think that's good to have various opinions and views.
Yeah, you need those 10 people in the room.
We're right back where we started. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. We can look at the same document, the same Constitution, and if it's not a group of us looking at it, we're going to get it all twisted up.
Yep, it's going to be bad. So, yeah, and I might have a few friends, and you know who you are, and we've talked about having you over before, and if you're interested, let me know.
Real informal.
Yeah, very. He's wearing a suit coat, though, which is a little bit more formal. I got ripped jeans, and
I didn't button my shirt, though.
you didn't button your shirt? Oh, we are informal today.
The gentleman. Outlaw.
Outlaw when necessary, gentleman when possible. Yeah, I was thinking about the gentleman outlaw. I want to be able to explain it better. It's kind of like, explaining a Hebrew word. It doesn't just translate over perfectly.
Somebody asked me just recently, I think at Lowe's or something, what's that mean? You know, I'm trying to spit out the shortened version, and
We'll have to get you a card and just hand it
right,
out.
yeah.
We preferred the gentleman side, which is why it's gentleman than outlaw. It's better if we can all come together and talk together and have conversations and work together, and we're free to do what we want to do in order to better ourselves and better our communities, better our family. However, if it comes to a point where we're not allowed to take care of our family and to better our communities, we will anyway. There's places where you're not allowed to collect rainwater. Technically, if you get a bucket under your house and it's collecting the rain coming off of it, you're going against the law. Well,
We're the law.
if you're in California and you want to have a garden and you're not allowed to turn on your faucet because your tyrannical, governor over there says you're not allowed to use electricity or water this week or this day or these hours, whatever the case may be, and it will get worse. You can't even grow food to keep your family alive, and all of a sudden we have some sort of a pandemic where you're not allowed to go to the store, and then there's a war over in Europe, and all of a sudden the truckers aren't driving because there's no gas, and now everything's gone. You don't have food for your family. What are you going to do? At that point, you need to work outside the law, and we're not talking about going and robbing banks and beating people up. We're talking about simply doing what you need to survive, which is no limit on that.
I go back to the founding fathers, though. The 56 men that signed the Constitution were gentlemen.
They were.
They were good, solid men of integrity, of education, business owners.
They had lands and titles.
They were proper gentlemen and carried themselves as such.
Yeah.
They were also traitors.
Yeah. They were, we shall hang together or we shall hang alone. They knew they were going to die because they were going against the king, against the law.
Definitely outlaws.
They were outlaws.
And, they weren't running around with submachine guns and killing off people who wouldn't pay the debts.
Well,
but they were...
Technically, all of them had military-style weapons.
Yeah, they did. They absolutely did. Yep.
So that is another thing for those that want to fight, not to cut you off there, fight the whole Second Amendment where, well, you can't have a machine gun. First of all, you can have a machine gun. Everybody says machine guns are illegal, and they're not illegal, they're regulated. They're very expensive and very difficult to get a hold of because of the regulations, but you can legally own one. Totally different subject. But when the Second Amendment was formed, first of all, as former Vice President Joe Biden said, you weren't allowed to own a cannon.
Yeah, you could.
You were. I just lost my battery, so give me a second here before I lose my live feed. There was a letter. I think we're good. There was a letter written to, I think it was Washington. It was Washington, and it was fishermen, I believe it were. They were out on the seas, and there was pirates on the seas because wherever there's a group of people, there's people trying to do evil. And they said, can we have cannons to defend ourselves? And he wrote back and said, shall not be infringed is pretty clear, guys. That wasn't, verbatim there. But he said, of course you can. Why would we restrict that? We literally gave you your freedom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Freedom. Yeah, every single person had a military-style weapon. Every single person. Your average, at that point, 6 to 8 year old kid was as equipped as the equivalent of a Navy SEAL.
Yeah, I guess that would be true too.
Because Jefferson said that you should teach your children at a young age how to handle and be safe with firearms. Which means my son sitting over here off camera is 10 years old. He should probably know more about guns than he does, and he can take any of mine, clean them and load them, and fire them. And safely. And he's very, very good at that. I have no fears. All of my guns are locked up. These ones back here are unloadable. For TikTok purposes, they're fake. And we wouldn't have so many problems. There's two major issues we have right now, and we need to fix the first before the second. Problem number 2. I'm going to start with number 2 in the words of Dudley Do Right. There's 3 reasons. I'd like to start with number 2 if it's okay with you. But the second problem is we don't teach gun safety. They're bad, they're evil, don't touch them. I just got my mother her concealed carry license, and if you remember, the first time I gave her a gun, she like didn't want to hold it.
Right.
It was like, don't. That's dangerous. Grab it, own it, mean it. It's a lot safer. Keep your booger hook off the bang switch. So kids need to learn gun safety, because then they can be safe with them. They're not going to have accidents.
Right.
If they do damage, it is intentional. That's problem 1. We don't teach the importance of life.
Yeah, that's good.
One of the nice things about owning this farm here is my kids will see things killed. They will kill things, and they will gut those things. They will eat those things. They will not waste them.
Yeah.
It will hurt inside for them and for us. When you raise animals, you love those animals. But once you see, I remember when I was little. I was too little for a gun, so I was in single digits. I had a BB gun, and I went out and I wanted to shoot a branch to scare a pigeon, and I hit the pigeon, and it fell to the ground, and I cried my eyes out, and I ran back, and I got you, and I didn't want you to find it on your own, because then you would have got really mad if I tried to hide it, so I had you come out. That changed everything for me.
It's dead. You can't
dead.
bring it back.
Can't bring it back. And our kids don't learn that nowadays.
I was just talking to somebody, an acquaintance that I raise fish, and one of the acquaintances that I've got, because of the cold snap we went through just a few days ago, he had a tank that he didn't have heated properly, and came out in the morning and one of his fish had died. And it was an emotional reaction. Not, he wasn't blubbering all over the floor or anything, but the reality was that I'm responsible for that life.
Yeah. And
I, through my own negligence, caused its death. Yeah. And you can say, oh, it's just a fish, who cares? It's like killing a mosquito. It's not. It's not. Yeah. It's a life that we're... Now, do we take that life? Absolutely. Those fish are being raised for food. Yeah. They're good for food.
And they better be delicious.
But it's not fun to kill them.
No.
They have a life that we will take for food, but to negligently cost a life should be an emotional experience.
Yeah, it should hurt.
There should be a little piece of you that goes, man, that was wrong.
Which is a huge problem for you parents out there. When little Johnny's goldfish dies and you run to Walmart and grab one and put it back, you saved him tears, but you cost him a lot more than that.
Right. Those tears are sometimes valuable. A little understanding of the cost of life.
Yeah. I remember when Tim, your brother Tim, came over, and our dogs ran off. It was Bandit and his dog. Yep. And they went and got a new one. And pretended their dog came back.
I don't remember that, but I remembered losing the dog.
Yeah, I do. I believe I remember Timmy telling me that it was the same dog, and he came back, and he was...
Oh. Yeah.
It's a big difference. We learned how to take care of our stuff because it could leave. It could run. Keep an eye on your dogs.
Yep.
Be interested to know what Timmy thinks.
Yeah.
But I'm sure he learned other things in other ways, but there's an importance in that. And we don't teach life. And nowadays we teach that you can change life. If you were born a boy, you can become a girl, and you lose the importance of who you are.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a man. I know that. There's a certain respect and responsibility and duty that comes with that. But if I can change tomorrow,
then it has no value.
There's no value in it. Why do I care? Because I can be alive today, dead tomorrow. It doesn't matter. Nobody even cares who I am. And we had a guy at work the other day just change his name because he didn't like his name. Sure, legal, you can do that. Sure, have fun. Hope you like it. But we joke about our name. Like, oh, that's just the Rush way, you know, and everything's cobbled up. That's just the Rush way.
Yep.
So I can either change my name and avoid that, which doesn't change my history of who I am, where I came from. It just changes the name. Or I can make sure my kids are better and actually change the name. Not my name, but the name.
The reputation.
The reputation, the what it means to be a Rush. I can make that better. And when everything's so fluid and you can just change everything, you never improve anything. Everything takes the path of least resistance, and if you just allow everything to change, you never grow strong muscles.
Yep.
And that's a problem. That's a huge problem. And I think that's what's wrong with our generation. It's the whole hard times make soft men make hard times make hard men make soft times. Or I think I got that right. Last time I got it right. If I got it wrong, go back and watch our last video. I know it. But yeah, that's a huge issue. And I don't like how soft everybody's getting. And just, I don't know. You rant for a little while.
No, you're right. The value of life, the whiny attitudes. Instead of changing my circumstances, I expect you to change how you treat me.
Yeah, I'm offended.
Yep, and I don't see that in our history at all. I look at my father's and my grandfather's day. They wouldn't dream of thinking that way.
No.
It just there's no. Not even in the DNA.
Rub some dirt in it, shut your mouth, and keep going.
Yeah, there's just you do what you got to do. If your neighbor defaults you or whatever, you deal with it.
Yeah,
you deal with it. Either you get up and just keep on moving, or you go talk to the neighbor. Whatever. You don't have to whine about it. You don't have to blame anybody. You don't have to take it to the government. You don't.
Yeah, I had I think it was an old shirt that said, "In Dixie, we don't call 911."
Yeah.
And we need that mentality back. Not because I'm gonna go beat you up myself, but because
I'm gonna go work it out.
We're gonna make this work one way or the other.
Yep.
And yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. Anyway, we're almost done with our mead. We are drinking slowly. We're drinking about the same rate, actually, which is weird for us.
Mine's almost done.
Yep.
How much more I can take?
Yeah.
You didn't keep your pipe going.
I didn't. I ran out. It's empty. I smoked it. I think I did. We'll try it again. And for those of you that are watching, this is just tobacco.
I've missed my pipe. I mean, both winters that we've been here, I came down with pneumonia, and pipes and pneumonia don't go well together.
Not always.
So,
I was actually talking about.
This is nice to enjoy this again.
I was actually talking to a buddy at work today. I went out while he was going on a smoke break because he's got some things going on at home, and I was like, I know what you're talking about. I was like, you just kind of feel like your world's collapsing in and you can't really breathe. And he's like, man, that's exactly how I feel. And I was like, you're going on a smoke break. I was like, historically, smoking and breathing don't exactly align.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
well, pipe, if you don't know this, those who are watching, pipe smoking is not a direct inhale kind of thing. It's not like smoking cigarettes where this is going into your lungs. You're bound to get some secondhand smoke from this, but it's not a nicotine based. It's not an addictive drug. It's none of those things. It's just purely a taste and smell and relaxation. You can't smoke a pipe fast. Well, you can.
You can.
It won't go well. I probably smoke it faster than I should, but I still going here.
Again, we have somebody wanting to join. If you want to join, please leave a comment so we know you're a real person. We'd be more than happy to talk if we can hear you. But yeah. And the difference between a pipe and a cigarette is if you get good tobacco, it's just that tobacco. There's no chemicals. There's no glues.
Yep. Right. No tar. No nothing.
There's no tars.
Yep.
It's just tobacco.
Yeah. Cigarettes are loaded with chemicals.
Mm-hmm.
None of which are healthy.
No, it's not like one of those, life-altering in a good way kind of things. So it's not bad for you. It's not. There are studies that show that it has health benefits, just like cigarettes did. Originally, when cigarettes came out, they were prescribed by doctors.
Originally, when cigarettes came out, they weren't much different than this.
Exactly. They were tobacco rolled in paper.
Yeah. So there's a big difference. People often quote that and say, well, doctors used to say it was healthy. Well, there was a time when it was the same thing as smoking a pipe.
So
pipes are still what they were 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 600 years ago. Mm-hmm. It's the same stuff. They're getting better at finding different varieties of tobacco, but it's the same stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Cigarettes have become cancer sticks.
Yeah, and for those of you watching this as well, same thing's going to happen with marijuana as they legalize it.
Yeah, it will.
Once the FDA gets their hands on it, they're going to be allowed certain groups who want to produce this all the time are going to be allowed certain chemicals to get you a bigger high or different effects.
More flavor,
more
effects.
Flavor.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to run into a whole nother set of problems. As of right now, I do believe there are benefits. There are relaxations. They can help you sleep. If you have anorexia where you don't eat, they can help you eat. Inflammation issues. There's a list longer than is probably real, but there is a list of what is good for you. Not saying you should, but there is a season for all things. But once it's fully regulated, just like cigarettes, it's just going to be filled with crap. And our kids are going to be growing up with, if you ever smoke marijuana between the year of this and this, call now and we can get you financial compensation. And
yeah.
It's going to be the same issues. And they're going to start putting, no, it causes cancer, which my generation is going to be like, you know what? They smoked that back in high school all the time. Not a single one of them got cancer. And actually, Sally, she smoked it to get rid of her cancer.
Right.
And it worked.
Yeah. Yep. The government will destroy it for sure.
Yeah. The government never touches
Name
anything
one
that makes
thing
money.
the government has been successful at.
That's what I was just saying.
Yep.
Anything at all that the government has ever done better than the free market. Ever.
Yeah. Feel free to comment. Name one. Just one.
If you can list one thing, we will do an entire video on that one thing. We will actually do our homework, not let the dog eat it, and make a video. Well, it'd be a good video. It'd be something that the world has never heard of.
Best kept secret.
We could go viral.
Yep.
And no conspiracy theories. Not like, we brought aliens to the planet, which were never here before, because they probably were. If you believe in aliens. Aliens is a fun conversation. What's your thought on aliens?
Yeah. I don't know.
Extraterrestrials.
I'll believe it when I see it, I guess. I can't rule it out, but I don't really buy into it either.
You know what I believe? This is kind of a fun thing. I believe aliens would be the best description of which you could tell the difference between angels and demons. Something out of this world that has supernatural powers that you can't quite control.
Yeah.
And
my growing up years in the religious circles, it was always that there's no such thing as aliens, it's just demons.
Yep.
And I don't know that I would go that far. I can recognize why they say what they say and what they're saying, but I've got to leave room for the fact that there could be intelligent life out there. I don't really think so. I think God created this earth, and this is it.
Yep.
But you know what God does and did, I can't argue with. But something that shows up on the show, I watch Star Trek once in a while, and it shows up a lot. They'll go to a civilization that has never come out of the, I don't know, want to say the Dark Ages or non-technical ages.
Still unadvanced.
And they look at, these people flying around in spaceships, and they can, beam from the planet to the ship and all this weird stuff, but they must be gods.
Yeah.
Well, they're not gods. They just have technology that blow your mind.
Correct.
If you looked at our technology and you went back to the caveman days, they'd look at us as gods.
Yep.
When the white man first showed up with guns, fire sticks, could kill a man from 50 yards.
Yep.
We were gods.
Yep.
No, we just had technology that they didn't have yet.
Exactly.
So, we got to be careful about just prescribing everything to, that must be demonic or something like that. There's a lot of things we don't understand.
Mm-hmm. Well,
simple as that.
See how to put this in a good metaphor. I'm usually pretty good at metaphors, and I don't know how to put this one in. Yeah, I would agree with the fact that I don't think is life in the way we would believe to be aliens on another planet in our solar system. Because I agree with you in the fact that this planet was created first and foremost as just a perfect creation.
Mm-hmm.
And we were put on it. Everything else is just for our pleasure, just to see it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like drawing a picture of a cabin, having the woods in the background that have nothing to do with the cabin.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it makes it better.
Right. That's good. Mm-hmm.
So that's where I get this idea of angels and demons. Because I mean, if you think of some biblical texts of talking of the light comes down, and the angels like descend, and the dove descends. That falls right out of a beam from what must have been a saucer in the air, just shot down, and all of a sudden this person was gone.
Right.
It's not like that actually happened, but it's like when you wake up and you're trying to remember your dream and nothing makes sense, so your brain fills in the blanks.
Yeah, it does.
When you see something supernatural, your brain is going to fill in the blanks, and it's just not going to make sense to the average person. Like a reading through Revelation.
I was just thinking the same thing. Trying to describe what can't be described.
Yeah, the indescribable.
The human terms don't work.
Yep.
And human concepts don't work.
Yep.
It's way beyond these little brains. And to try to put it on paper, good luck.
Yep.
It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It's interesting also, I learned this recently that, do you know Mars, we've had rovers there now and all of this kind of stuff. Most scientists now believe and agree that at some point there was a global flood on Mars, because you can see where the water has eroded and all of that. There's a ton of evidence for a global flood on Mars. And yet they refuse to talk about a global flood on Earth. Now Mars has no water.
But we don't have enough evidence that there could have been a flood.
And the Earth is almost all water.
Yes.
But Mars had the flood.
Yep.
So there's a whole lot of things that we think we know in science that are twisted by individual beliefs, by financial beliefs. I could be a really good scientist if I pushed global warming, because the government would pay me for my papers.
Correct.
Yeah.
Why not?
Give me $2 million, I'll tell you all about global warming, and I can convince you that it's a problem.
Yeah, it is interesting on the global warming thing, and there is climate change. Yep, it's not global warming anymore. Outdoors out of the picture.
It didn't work.
Yeah. And it's not global freezing either, because after like 10 years or so, it almost like goes the other way. And I watched something of the Earth rotating and the temperatures, and it gets further. It's just getting hotter and hot. Whatever. Okay. Show me videos, please. Comment. It's interesting that all these scientists that are paid big money by the government all agree. It's the ones that aren't paid big money that disagree.
Right.
Yep. Almost as if there's a correlation.
Yep.
And a correlation doesn't mean causation. I get that.
Yep.
You have a better theory.
We grew up near the Great Lakes.
Yeah.
Michigan.
Yeah.
And
beautiful.
I remember it as a boy. Now this goes back 50 years ago. Lake Superior. We'd go up there every year and camp on Lake Superior. And you'd come off the campground and you come across this big banks where the trees are. And you drop down the banks, you go way down, and here's this beach. And the beach went out there, I don't know, 100 feet, let's say. I don't know, pick a number. And there was the water. We'd play in the water, and we'd play on the beach, and we'd make sandcastles and let the dogs run, and all the things you do on a beach. Well, then as I got older, little by little by little, that beach got to be less and less. The water was getting closer to where the trees were.
Yep.
And instead of 100 feet of beach or 50 feet of beach, now there's 20 feet. And pretty soon there was hardly any beach at all.
That's the same beach I grew up on, right?
Right. And you'd go there, and there'd be hardly any beach.
Yeah.
You'd come off the bank, and there's the water. There's
not
no place to play.
That's not a time of year. For 3 generations, we went the same week of the same month.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like Lake Superior rose, went higher, deeper.
Increased in volume.
By, I mean, it had to be 10, 12, 15 feet.
Yeah.
And that's a big lake.
Yeah. The largest Great Lake in the world.
And it's just like, this is weird. The word global warming or climate change never entered our vocabulary. Well, then, I know this might go back 20 years, 15 years ago, something like that. It started going the other way.
Mm-hmm.
And it went pretty quickly. Within a matter of years, we again had 100 feet of beach.
Yep.
And people were saying, the Great Lakes are drying up.
Yep.
It's global warming. That's when we first started hearing it. And people started saying, yeah, look, global warming is causing the beaches to go away. They had these huge hotels built in Traverse City and stuff. And it was way out to the lake, and it was swampy, and they were just like, oh, we lost all our value on these big resorts because the beach just is all gone now. The lake is way out there, and there's no longer any good beach. And then a few years later, they're complaining because they're getting flooded.
Yeah.
The water has come right back up to the porch of the buildings. It's a cycle. It's a natural, and I have lived long enough now to see Lake Superior go in and out a couple of different times.
Yep.
And it's going to happen again.
Yep.
And again.
And if you believe that it's global warming, you will allow them to steal money out of your paycheck every single week to give to their friends to prove it.
To research it, yeah.
Because that's something, I've mentioned this in one of my shorter videos, it's really important for people to realize money works off of a system. And I'm not some great, I barely can balance a checkbook, but I do realize this, and I'm pretty sure my kids can answer this as well. If you don't provide anything, nobody's going to pay you.
Yeah.
It works off of goods and services. We're starting this YouTube channel to provide content in hopes that eventually maybe revenue will come to our website. Maybe. It has to be worth something.
Mm-hmm.
But there has to be something in order to create revenue. The government does not create goods and services.
Right.
They don't. So they don't make revenue. The only money that they get, you give them.
Right.
Taxation is theft is a big word that the alt-right throws out, and the left is like, oh, you're just mad that you have to give your paycheck and pay your fair share. And if the rich would pay their fair share, then everything would be okay. But it is theft. If it's taken without permission, it's theft. Period.
Yep.
That's the definition.
Yep.
So we allow these laws to be passed, which means we're giving permission. But when they throw things into these bills that we don't know about and they're purposely skirting over, there was a NASA bill recently passed. And have you heard of stripping bills?
No.
They create a bill, they give it a title, has something to do with funding NASA to go to Mars. They strip everything outside of the bill and put something in for the Green New Deal. Still the NASA bill. Nothing to do with NASA.
Wow.
So it's important to actually read these bills.
Wow.
And they passed a whole bunch of legislation on cars and taxes, and zero to do with NASA at all. No money went to NASA, but we gave billions of dollars of your taxes. And I wish I had my folder on how much money per American taxpayer $1 billion is, because we spend it like mad. And it's like $1,000 out of your pocket for every $1 billion the government passes. And every $1 trillion is like $10,000 out of your pocket. And it doesn't come out of this year. And so when they spend a $6 trillion infrastructure bill. It's over $60,000 out of your paycheck, and you can't pay that, so that means your children are going to. So they're already taxed out their ass before they're even getting a job.
Without giving permission.
And they never gave permission for that. So I have a problem with taxation without representation. I feel like that should be a line somewhere.
Yeah, go figure.
Almost like the tea that started the whole revolution. 16 men got pissed off because a cup of tea in today's cost, the taxes for you to go to Starbucks and get a chai latte, that cost would have increased by 2 cents. That was the tax that caused them to throw the tea overboard and say, we are not buying from you, we've got coffee. It started the whole revolution.
Isn't that something?
Overly simplified, but 2 cents. How much money? You have probably, watching this, have never actually listened to those numbers. Trillion is a number that your mind cannot compute.
Nope, you can't.
Period. Billion is hard enough. I think it's if you're given $1,000 a day for like 32 years, you get $1 million. If you're given $1 million a day for like, I don't remember, but it's astronomical. You can't get it in a lifetime. You cannot. $1,000 a day for a lifetime. I think it's like a couple hundred years before you could actually get to $1 billion.
Billion.
Billion. And a trillion.
Yeah, you can't comprehend it.
And we're spending it like it's nothing.
Yep.
And not only are we spending it, we're, again, supply demand. If there's a lot of something,
there's no intent to pay it back.
There's no intent. They don't. And I know there's economical geniuses out there who have destroyed this country before with economics, and that's how we went from the gold standard to, not the gold standard, but you still believe the science. This is a certificate from a college saying I know something. I don't know it. So when these people say that they're experts,
it doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean jack. Where did this start?
I don't know. I was just going to say, and on that note, here's a word from our sponsors.
Right? If we had one. Comment below and pay us to advertise. But yeah, the taxation issue is how that all started. That makes me mad. Because it is theft, and I'm giving away my paychecks for the 1% issue. The top 1% of this country pays 90% of our government. The top 50%, I don't think pays anything. Got hair in my mouth.
Top 50% would pay everything, basically, because the bottom 50% didn't pay nothing.
No, I think it's like 27% pays us 100% of the bill. On the bottom 20-some% actually gets paid by our government out of those taxes.
Okay.
Then the middle usually pays about $1,000 a person. So if you're middle class, congratulations, you get to pay somebody below you to take money. And I guess I should clarify, I have no problem with helping people who need it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If you're hurting and it's not your own doing, I'd be more than willing to help in any way possible. I mean, I grew up with random people living in my house because they fell in hard times, and next thing I know, somebody I don't even know the name of is living in the other room. We had a huge house just for that. Our house is no stranger to charity, but when you intentionally do it yourself and then you cry, oh pitiful me, you can sleep on the street, will help your kids because it's not their fault. So that's something to think about. I still don't remember. I'm trying to remember where I started this whole rant. It was a bad rant, but I think after an hour and a half, we're probably pretty well wrapped up with this. We got nobody watching, so nobody to kick off. Who's enjoying us.
So, throw it up on YouTube and.
Yep. So for those of you who did watch for more than 30 seconds, we appreciate you sticking around. And if you only watch for 30 seconds, you help the algorithm a little bit. And hopefully some of you enjoyed this content. Again, there's going to be pieces of this, whatever we think is worth hearing. We'll have short videos. So
Both YouTube and TikTok.
both YouTube and TikTok. And if there's a little snippet that we don't have a video of that you want to share with somebody and you don't want to send the whole hour and a half because you know they're not going to listen to it, let us know. Like, hey, between minute this and this, you said something really important, and I think it needs to be heard. We'll create that video. Because if you've made it this far, you're willing to communicate back and forth, I'm sure. But again, I'm Ryan. This is my father, Dave. And
Thanks for coming by.
Yeah, thanks for coming by, and stay safe. Remember, you're not alone.